It's Tuesday.
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Time for a week of the Marauders teach you how to do something cool. So to teach you my cool thing, we're going to need a meat on the floor. So for today's project, you're going to need your imagination, scissors, thread, and sharp pointy needles. So something I'm not sure if you guys are aware of is that I actually embroider a lot. There's a point in the early 2007 videos where Hank makes some sort of obscure joke that has to do with pineapples on people's pants, the idea being welcome to my pants. So I wanted to imitate this. Now admittedly, I didn't think my mom would be all that cool with me just stitching pineapples on my pants. I thought she would think it was a little weird, so I did the next best thing and stitched a pineapple on my backpack. It's the first real embroidery project that I did that wasn't based on a pattern. I just sketched a little pineapple and just started stitching. The final project I have to share with you guys is this. This is my backpack that I use now, and I stitched a Hufflepuff patch on it, and that is my latest project. I'm really proud of it, and it feels like the most official thing that I've done. But now I'm just going to take you guys through another project, which I'm about to start. I'm going to give you the tips on how I embroider, but it's really not an official way to do it at all. This is just what I figured out from picking up a needle and some thread and just doing stuff. So on this part of my backpack, I'm planning on writing "Don't forget to be awesome," mostly focusing on DFTBA. And so I'm going to show you kind of the process I go through when I start a project and kind of some of my tips that I have if you wanted to start doing this. First, I suggest you start with a pen. You're going to want to sketch out whatever you have onto your project so that you have a good idea of where you're going. I tend to just use actual pens because they're more durable and it's easier to see, but there are things like fabric pens. This one is a white one for if you're working on dark materials, and you can use those too. I just find it easier to use a good old-fashioned pen. You can see that I've sketched out an idea of what I wanted to do. You want to block it out so you know exactly where you're going, and it makes it a lot harder to make mistakes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
I've got this movie in my mind of Effington, and the soundtrack to it sounds like this.
You're just about ready to start now, so there are about 3 things that you need, which are thread, needles, and scissors. I suggest using normal thread rather than embroidery thread. Embroidery thread is really good, but it's just a pain to work with because you have to know how to separate it, and it just gets tangled really easily, and I just find it easier to work with spools. I usually double up my thread just because it makes it easier to work with when you're embroidering. You want to make sure that your length isn't too long or too short. Too short and you're going to have to replace it soon. Too long and you're going to need arms that are 2 feet longer, which can be annoying. Next, you're going to get out whatever needle you're going to use. There are needles that are specific to embroidering, which the back of this details, but really it doesn't matter as long as it can go through your fabric. Which brings me to my next point while I'm getting my needle out. You want to use fabric that's kind of tough. That's why backpack fabric is very nice, because it kind of gives you enough structure so it's not so loose that your design falls apart. If you are doing it on something like a shirt, you probably want to get some backing to work with that. And then I hope I don't have to teach you how to thread a needle because that's very hard to do through video, but basically you put the little thread part through the little hole part, and it's going to take some guess and check, but eventually you'll get it. Then you want to just get it to halfway through the thread. You want to match the 2 ends of the thread over here. So you have 2 ends. I know it's kind of hard to see. Take those 2 ends and you are going to knot them. I usually knot twice just so it doesn't pull through the fabric. You'll end up with a needle stuck on a loop. It's easier to be able to work with so you can remove your needle, because if you mess up you're going to need to be able to undo stitches and stuff like that. So what I do to prevent my needle being trapped is I take my scissors and I cut this off through. Then I thread it through these 2 threads again. Now you have double threaded thread, and you're pretty much just ready to start. So pretty much at this point you just get started. Poke poke your needle through on one side, pull it through, poke it back in the other. A lot of what you learn about embroidery is just through trial and error and figuring out what works on what project. Most of it is just going to be teaching yourself. It's a lot of just learning what works and what doesn't. Let's go back up there. It's time for the sorting hat to come back out to play. I went to our local Barnes & Nobles to get a book, and as always, I started to write Nerdfighter notes. And today I found out that there's someone else leaving Nerdfighter notes. So I found these awesome flowchart Nerdfighter notes in a bunch of the books. In case you didn't get that preface, my challenge is going to be to have the person I pick to drop Nerdfighter notes either in a library or a bookstore or wherever. The challenge goes to Mads. I seem to pick you a lot, but have fun with that, and Nia, I will see you tomorrow.